Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. I'm Jimbo, and I'm joined here by Isaac. And we're gonna be taking you through tonight's coverage of the free Mox Win-A-Mox top four.
Yeah,
Isaac, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty damn well. Pretty
That's
damn well.
good.
I'm really excited to actually get into watching some Highlander and giving away this bad boy. Little sneaky little
Ooh.
Mox Emerald.
Yeah, so we're not giving away a Mox Emerald on Moto. We're giving away one of those ones that's worth a couple of extra zeros over the Moto price, right?
Yeah. It's a little bit more expensive IRL than on Moto.
Just a little bit, yeah. And this was $0 entry, this tournament.
Yeah.
Uh,
You can say.
it had a few
Absolutely.
sponsors: Rob's MTG Auctions, Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, MTG Mate, Card Hoarder, and yourself. You put up the Mox Emerald yourself.
Yeah, so as part of Rob's MTG Auctions, really, I was just craving some competitive Highlander in the middle of lockdown. I was like, you know what? There's not any like really meaty big tournaments going on.
Mm-hmm.
How can I fix that?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I've been keen to put up a Mox for a Highlander event, and I wanted to do like a really competitive version. So that being Magic the Gathering online.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I have a spare Mox here that I can actually give away, and I can do it sponsored by Rob's MTG Auctions. And then
Mm-hmm.
I had a chat with Pat from Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, and I was like, look, I got this crazy idea to run a free to enter event, and I want to give away a Mox Emerald. Do you want in? And hats off to Pat. He's like jumps in with both feet. He's like, let's do this.
Yeah, sweet.
And so that's why we have such a stacked top eight as well. So not just the Mox Emerald, but the other prizes that we have as well, which go all the way down to top eight.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, you know what? Who else wants to be involved? Send out a couple of messages, and that's why we got MTG Mate on board.
Yep.
Nick over at MTG Mate is like, yeah, let's do a bunch of content creation stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give away some store credit. So we've given away store credit for creating YouTube videos, creating Twitch videos.
Mm.
We gave $100 store credit for the best meme. That was one
There
of my
was some
favorite
good
ones.
ones there. There really
Yeah,
was.
I gotta come back to that well, time and time again.
Well,
With
let's have a look
the
at what we're doing tonight. So
yeah.
we're up to the top four of this event. We started with 204 players, and right now there's only four of them left. As we have a look here at our bracket, we've got Matt Brown versus Dylan Kakawa, and we've got William Thompson versus Thomas Bott. All leading, of course, to the Mox Emerald. At the end of the day, that's what we're here for. That's what everyone's excited to play for. Isaac, how many of these competitors have you met in person?
So I know Dylan quite well.
Mm-hmm.
I've played against Dylan a number of times.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then CFT Sock. I'm not sure if I know them, and I'm not sure which Paul that is. But there's certainly this is one of my favorite things about the MTGO version is that we've got players from England, we've got players from Germany, we've got players from the United States, like all around the world, people jumping in to play 7 Point Highlander for the first time
Yeah,
and getting amongst it. So.
absolutely. There was Sweden, UK, Germany, America, Canada, and Australia, all in the top eight, and many more countries throughout the 204 and throughout the top 16. But with the four players that we have left, we have Matt Brown from the United Kingdom against Dylan Kakawa from Australia, and Will Thompson from America against Thomas Bott, also from Australia.
Mm.
So we're going to have a closer look at these players and what they're playing here in a second. So let's go into Will Thompson's profile here first, also known as Bill Civ on the internet. Got some questions there that were asked on the preparation for, once they made the top eight, we were like, who are you? Give me some stuff about you. And here's the answers we got from Bill Civ or William Thompson.
So decks played throughout the tournament: Doomsday, Oracle Breach, and Esper Control. MTG achievements: SCG Syracuse Legacy Classic Top 8. Many results in MTGO, including a PDQ win with Modern Teamer Uro, which is pretty cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite questions. Favorite thing about 7 Point Highlander? Interesting constraints on deck building. I think the point system does, combined with that singleton format, create some interesting deck building, and just scrolling through Gather, trying to find like the third, fourth, fifth best versions of, Ponder, Preordain, Opt, like all of these different things.
Yeah.
And then if you could add a point to a card, what would it be? Lion's Diamond, Dorothy Voidwalker, which is interesting because that's only been out for like a week on MTGO.
Yeah, Delty
And
Voidwalker, it's really making waves.
yeah,
It's,
Thassa's Oracle.
I
Uh,
mean, all of those are very, they're not obscene suggestions. Isaac, you were on the points committee in the past. You gave up that position, and I actually took it. So we've got the past and the future here.
Yep.
Or past and the present, I should say. We'll worry about the future when we get there, that's for sure. But you, you're no stranger to the pointing discussions, what goes on behind the scenes, trying to balance, 50 different people's wants out of the format to try and come up with something that makes everyone have fun.
Yeah, one of the great things about the points list and having a points committee is that you can make the format change pretty significantly by just tweaking some of those points.
Mm-hmm.
And like a big part of it is just inspiring people to build new decks.
Yeah.
So I could certainly see Dorothy Voidwalker getting a point. I could certainly see Thassa's Oracle going to 4 points. I think Thassa's Oracle does have a pattern of being pretty unpleasant to play against. I don't know if you've
It's
played with or against that combo much, Jimbo.
Yeah, it's a divisive card. It really is. People either love it or hate it. And there's I think we're going to be discussing for a long time yet. Either the card's going to be pointed to be unplayable, or people are going to be clamoring for it to be more pointed.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Now,
think
what are we
that's
looking at? What are we looking at the moment? What deck do we have in this
well. This
in
right
front of
here
us?
is Bill Siv's deck. We had a look at his profile, and here is his deck list for tonight, for the top 8, for the top 4 even, as we're playing off for the Mox Emerald.
Okay.
Esper Control. We
Yeah.
see Delphi Voidwalker, the card that Bill Siv nominated for a point. As you said, it's only been out for a short while.
Yep.
A plethora of other valuable creatures, 1-for-1 interaction, your usual suite of 2-for-1s, and that's about it, really. It's just some good, clean controlling magic. We've got some main deck Flusterstorm, Eliminate, Force of Negation.
Dovin's Veto. You see that one in there. It's pretty sneaky. You can play the Dovin's Veto when your opponent plays Thassa's Oracle, and then they go trigger on stack, holding priority, play the Demonic Consultation,
Mm-hmm.
and they might have 2 or 3 counter spells to back that up. And then if you have the Dovin's Veto, then bad news for your opponent.
Yeah, same sort of deal with Flusterstorm. Very hard to counter back on a Flusterstorm. Really, Flusterstorm's very good at, ensuring that you're stopping the bad thing from happening. It's not so good from the Tainted Pact side of that exchange. If you're going, Tainted Pact, they go counterspell, you go Flusterstorm, they say, okay, another counterspell. But that doesn't work the other way around, If you're trying to stop Tainted Pact, Flusterstorm will do it.
Yep. 22 instants.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at the other side of the table. So, Will Thompson, of course, in the top 4. His opponent is from Australia, Thomas Bott. Decks played throughout the tournament. Mud. Just one. Don't need any more than that on the list. MTG achievements. Good showings at Australian GPs. We don't get a ton of GPs here in Australia. We get 1 a year. So if you're looking and you're like, well, he went to 1 GP a year, that's not very good. No, that's all of them in Australia, basically.
Yeah.
Favorite things about 7 Point Highlander. Any deck seems viable as long as it's well refined and piloted well. I've always really liked that about the format. You can play any pile, any strategy that you want, as long as you're backing it up with enough powerful cards and repetitions with the deck practice and knowing your deck. If Tombot could add a point to a card, it would be Oath of Druids, because how does anyone ever beat that card?
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
we skipped the last question here on Bill Siv's profile. I'm just going to go back to Bill Siv's profile for a moment here. If you were a Planeswalker, what would your ultimate be? He answered probably something along the lines of Enter the Infinite or an Underworld Breach emblem.
I like it. I like it.
And now I'm going to go back into Tom Bot's one, because I have to give some context here. If Tom Bot was a Planeswalker, the ultimate would be 0 loyalty, becomes a 6/10 creature, giant creature with reach until end of turn. Now, Thomas Bot is 6'10".
Ah, okay. That makes more sense.
It really does, yeah.
I was curious about that.
Yeah. Bit of an inside joke as the as his Planeswalker ultimate. But let's have a look here at the deck list that Thomas Bot has brought tonight. Played
This
Mud.
is one of my favorite. This is probably my favorite deck list that we're going to see tonight. Just all colorless all the time.
Yeah, I mean, Mud throughout the league, Mud into the top 8. A couple of new cards from recent sets. Forsaken Monument, a big one that's drawing my eye. Nettle
let's
Cyst.
read the text on Forsaken Monument, because I literally had to click this to see.
5 mana legendary artifact. Colorless creatures you can control get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, add an additional colorless, and whenever you cast a colorless spell, gain 2 life. Could be relevant if we see, say, a Tom versus Dylan final. That last line there.
I think it'll be the most relevant card on Thomas's side. Beyond, Mishra's Workshop is probably the most relevant.
But we'll worry about the final once we get there. Tom's got to battle his way through Bill Siv's deck first. The mana base has a full suite of 6 artifact lands, the 5 colored ones and Darksteel Citadel, and more colorless cards in the sideboard. Who knew?
Microcentral Lattice to get with the Khan.
Yeah, I mean,
when we want to regenerate things.
Yeah. So what do you think of the head-to-head matchup, the Mud deck against the Esper Control deck? What do you feel if you were at the table? Which seat would you want to sit in?
I think I would want to be in the Esper Control seat.
Yeah.
Just because I like dirtling around with instants.
Makes sense. I mean, when you're playing Mud, you have access to very few instants. We've got Mental Misstep in Tombot's deck, as well as a Dismember in the sideboard. And outside of that, you're looking at what? Warping Whale? That's about all you've got access to. Well, let's have a look at the other side of the bracket as well, while we're here. Because this is...
I just want to talk a little bit about that interaction that's going to happen between... It's William Thompson, yeah?
Yep.
And Thomas Bott. If we look at William Thompson's deck, there are cards like Dovin's Veto, Flusterstorm, even like Force of Negation, that Dovin's Veto that we were talking about.
Mystical
and
Dispute.
even like Cling to Dust, Spell Pierce, Mystical Dispute. There's a lot of cards in there that aren't going to interact favorably with the what's on the opposing side.
This is very true. These are all they're cards that trade off on flexibility for efficiency. And, you pick and choose them because they're typically good against the field. Most of the field is going to be playing blue. Most of the field is going to be playing non-creature spells. Drown in the Lock, most players are going to be playing fetch lands and filling up their graveyard in some manner, cantrips, that sort of thing. But when you come up against someone who's fighting on a different axis, who's just playing lands that tap for 2, tap for 3, tap for 7, and playing big, silly artifacts, maybe your cards aren't the right ones for the matchup.
Yeah. So I think that Thomas is going to have a really significant leg up in game 1. And then when we go to sideboard, you'll see that there's a Null Rod, there's an Energy Flux.
There's a Serenity.
A Serenity. At the beginning, you can destroy all artifacts and enchantments that can't be regenerated.
Yeah.
So it's pretty clear that William Thompson has come to this top 8 with a plan in mind against getting paired against artifacts.
Very true. Doesn't want to be walking into it unprepared.
Yeah, and
That's
that
for sure.
Supreme Verdict can also certainly do some work.
Sure, yeah. All right, so let's pop over to our bracket again, and let's have a look at the other side of the top four.
Mm.
We're going to be starting off the coverage tonight with this match between Dylan and Matt.
Hmm.
Let's have a look at Matt Brown, see who this is, how did they make the top eight, and what do they want from the event. Isaac.
Yeah, so decks played throughout the tournament, mono red, all the way through the Swiss. I'm new to the format and wanted to play something a bit easier to pilot, so I decided to go with small red creatures. Well, that was a pretty good decision by Matt Brown, considering Matt is now in the top eight.
Very true.
MTG achievements top eight JP Birmingham, top eight JP Bologna. I'm terrible with pronunciation in 2019. So a couple of JP top eights to Matt's name, which is pretty impressive. And jumping into 7-point Highlander for the first time, also incredibly impressive to make top eight.
Absolutely, yeah.
Favorite thing about 7PH, being able to play with some unassuming cards that were decent / good back in their standard formats. Had a lot of fun playing with Smuggler's Copter, Arncrop Crasher, and Bomat Courier again. Yeah, so some all-stars from different red decks throughout the last couple of years. And being able to jam them into a deck and then being able to play random one-offs of these cards is pretty cool. One of my... I just love so many things about 7-Point Highlander, and that is also one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like Matt Brown's design for his Planeswalker Ultimate here. I think it's a really cool design. A low-cost ultimate with -3 or 4. Create a token copy of Goblin Chainwhirler.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And
then if you got to point to a card, we're seeing Thassa's Oracle or Demonic Consultation. Again, just being the #1 combo deck in the format, and kind of miserable to play against. I'm on board with you, Matt. I'm on board with you.
Yeah, and that might be something that we see a few people mentioning in their points requests, as it may be. Let's have a look at what Matt Brown is playing tonight. So mono red all the way through the Swiss. Not so much now.
That's interesting. So played mono red all the way through, and then top 8 decides to go for an Hour of Promise deck, which goes and gets Field of the Dead and Primeval Titan in order to again get Field of the Dead. We're seeing some interesting metagame choices in Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast in the main, along with Veil of Summer. So certainly geared up to win the control mirror. And with Field of the Dead being a land that you can't counter and very hard to kill, certainly hoping for the games to go long and to take advantage of those unique resources in the form of lands and tutus from the Field of Dead.
Yeah, really set up to fight off the blue decks in the format. As you mentioned, the main deck Red Blast, Pyroblast, and Veil of Summer. And then you just look at every single one of these threats. These are, like, if you made a laundry list of cards that I, as a blue mage, don't want to play against, you pretty much come up with this deck.
Yeah.
It's just cards that are really just good, efficient, powerful. Green Sun Zenith, not an option you typically see in these sort of controlling decks. Typically, the decks you see Green Sun Zenith in, you're looking at, 20, 25 creatures, majority of them green, maybe a birthing pod. But this deck, just playing Green Sun Zenith to find, a Dork on turn 1 or 2, Omnath or Primeval Titan as the game goes late, and Uro if you're paired against an aggro player.
And then that Abundant Harvest, sneaky Abundant Harvest from MH2.
Yeah, really sweet. Powerful, just sort of fixing your draws, it's... It costs 1 mana, but would you pay 1 mana on any given draw just to make sure that you're drawing either a land or a non-land?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, let's have a look at Matt's opponent for tonight. This is the match we're going to be featuring in about 10 minutes. Matt Brown is paired against the second Australian in the top 8 and the second Australian in the top 4, Dylan Kakawa.
All right, so decks played throughout the tournament. Red, Black, Aggro. MTG Achievements played a Pro Tour once. That's a nice one from Dylan. Favorite thing about 7-Point Highlander is unique decks. if you could add a point to a card, what would it be? Oko Thief of Crowns. That card should not exist. And this is, of all of the profiles that I've looked at, my favorite answer to if you were a Planeswalker, what would your ultimate be? Your ultimate would be, Dylan, you lose the game. Dash, the game shouldn't last long enough for me to ultimate.
Just to clarify, it's not Dylan's opponent loses the game. It's the person who activates Dylan's ultimate is the one losing the game from the activation.
Yeah, because the game shouldn't be going on that long. If you're playing black-red aggro, then having a Planeswalker around that doesn't win the game before an ultimate happens is
That's right.
Yeah, I
Well,
love it.
black-red aggro throughout the Swiss. Let's check out what Dylan has decided to bring to the top 8. I'm a little bit behind on my preparation here as I'm getting other things set up. Dylan, table, kablam. This is what Dylan Kakawa has brought tonight. They have brought black-red aggro.
Yeah.
We see a
So-
Mox Jet.
There's a couple of things that are particularly relevant there. That Mox Jet in there as a big part of the points. If we look at the converted mana cost of the spells, you'll see that there are so many one-drop creatures. We'll see a Ragavan in there from Modern Horizons 2. We see a Dorothy Voidwalker from Modern Horizons 2. We see a Lightning Skelemental from MH1. That sneaky 6/1 with Trample and Haste. An Opposition Agent, which can potentially snag fetch lands. Some burn spells in the form of Chain Lightning, Firebolt, Rift Bolt, Lightning Bolt, Burst Lightning, Incinerate.
It's just the whole lot.
Lightning Strike, Searing Spear, and Skullcrack. And then my two favorite ones being Price of Progress, that can do a lot of damage against every one of our top 4 decks that we're looking at tonight.
Very true.
And then that Fiery Confluence that can do 4 mana, deal 6.
As well
It
as
can also just destroy 3 artifacts, which is an interesting aspect.
I mean, we mentioned before the Forsaken Monument in Dylan's deck. The gain 2 life mode on that could be quite relevant. And here's the counterpoint to that. In Dylan's deck, if Dylan plays against Tom, Dylan just has a triple Vindicate right here.
Triple Vindicate, which is pretty insane. Like, kill 2 of your lands and the spell that you play.
Yeah, we also see Strip Mine Wasteland in the points. So between Strip Mine Wasteland and Mox Jet, there's really the ability to push a mana advantage with this deck. The plan definitely being, play a 1-drop creature. It's probably got 2 power, and then put your opponent back a land, and sort of ride that to victory.
Yeah, for sure.
In the sideboards, I believe this is the only of the top 4 decks without a companion. No, the 2 blue decks have companions. The Mud deck definitely doesn't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what a top 4 we've got to look forward to. We've got 2 sort of blue mid-range decks. You could call them Control, you could call them Tempo, you could call them Ramp. And they're tuned to fight each other.
Yep.
And they're on opposite sides of the bracket.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see if that is what ends up happening. I'm really excited to see the actual games get underway. I'm going to be commentating the actual finals with Russell Cutting, which I'm really excited to do. The other thing I'm really excited to do is give away some free stuff, Jimbo.
Well,
how do you like giving away free stuff?
I'm a big fan of giving away free stuff. I'm also a fan of receiving free stuff. Can I get free stuff?
You can get free stuff, Jimbo.
Normally
what
the
I
answer
would
is
probably do if you win free stuff, this is what I'm gonna guarantee, because I don't want anyone to think that, like, if Jimbo wins free stuff, it might be a bit dodgy. So if you win something randomly, I'm gonna give you that prize, and then I'm just gonna double that prize and also give it to somebody else.
This sounds
so if
great
Jimbo
to me.
wins anything, it's just doubling up. Okay, that's what I'm gonna tell you.
This sounds
so
brilliant. I love this.
Stuff. And I think that means that everybody's going to be rooting for you to win. All right, so the big one that we're doing now. So we've been giving content creation incentives for everybody throughout the tournament. You don't have to actually be involved in the tournament. You can just be watching the stream today. The one that we've got today is actually just a reflection of your experience, either playing 7-Point Highlander or interacting with one of our sponsors. So Rob's MTG Auctions, MTG Mate, Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, and Card Hoarders. So, my alarm's going off.
It's 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Got to make sure that my wife has done her Pokemon special trade for the day because you can only have one per day. And these are the important things, right? Streams and important box events don't stop this special trade from happening. Okay. So we're giving away $100 store credit with Rob's MTG auctions. We're giving away $100 store credit with MTG Mate. We're giving away $100 store credit with Card Hoarders and $100 store credit with Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. And all you have to do is tweet or have a public Facebook post or even an Instagram post about your experiences playing 7 Point Highlander. Or you can just tag some of the sponsors in the event and say, I really like the service that they create or their attitude towards creating events for community, for the Magic community.
That sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, just use the hashtag MTG7PH. So the number
7PH.
Yeah, you're already going that one. Going that one, yeah.
Got to make
so
sure
you can do it throughout the stream tonight, and even later tonight. I'm going to be running that one live on Sunday night. So in about 24 hours from now, I'll be doing that one, randomly giving those 4 different ones away. So you can tweet about the stream that's on tonight, Epic Eki, and really keen to just have people hear about Highlander, have people hear about the awesome sponsors, and give us some feedback as well at the same time.
All right, Isaac, I'm going to hit you with a difficult question here now.
Sure.
We've got 4 players here in the top 8. We've got Matt Brown, Dylan Kakawa, William Thompson, Thomas Bott. Who's going to take it home? Who's going to get the emerald?
That is a difficult question. I'm really, I'm going to be basing it on the player that has defeated me the most times in 7 Point Highlander, to my recollection, which is Dylan Kakawa. With Red Black Aggro. Dylan's been playing Red Black Aggro for a good number of years. Has had some different innovations to the deck over the years, and every time those innovations have come through, they've become adopted by other people.
Right.
And if I go to build a Red Black Aggro deck, then I go to Dylan's latest list that I can find, and that's where I start. So I'm going to go with Dylan Kakawa. How about you, Jimbo?
Look, I'm going to go overseas here. I reckon that this Esper deck looks like an absolute blast to play. And if Bill Civ can overcome the Game 1 disadvantage of Flusterstorm and Dovin's Veto and all of those, I want to see Bill Civ take this down. Will Thompson from the US.
Yeah, I'm actually really keen to see how Matt Brown goes as well. Like, I actually just want to see some 2/2 zombies being made through Field of the Dead.
Field of the Dead, yeah, that's right. All right, well, chat, we're going to take a very quick break here. The game has started. It's on a delay. We're going to be back in about 5 minutes with your brand new commentators for your first game for the top 4. Sit tight and make sure you tweet hashtag MTG7PH. See you soon, Isaac.
See you soon.
All right, welcome back. My name is Sam. I'm your resident American commentator, and here with me we have Thomas.
Yeah, hey Sam, I'm the resident Melbourne Australian commentator to pair up with you for the top 4 tonight.
Yeah, we were both competitors in this event. I sadly came in 11th place, so a bit off.
That's unfortunate. I think you prepared with one of the players in the top 8 tonight, is that right?
Yeah, Will Thompson, who's going to be playing next round. We did a lot of preparation for this event.
Oh, cool. Looks like we've pulled up the top 4 match. So, looks like we're looking at... we've got Dylan, they are on the top, and looks like this is the deck from Matt Brown on the bottom. I think this deck on the bottom is a base blue deck. Did you have any particular thoughts from looking at the deck list? I noticed they had Red Blast's main and Veil of Summer main, so it's obviously a metagames deck.
Yeah, I think this deck was mainly to beat the Esper control deck. I believe if I'm looking at the bracket correctly,
Alright,
Matt
Isaac,
was
I'm gonna
paired
hit you with
against
a difficult
the
question
other
here now.
Esper person who went 10-0 in the
We've
Swiss,
got,
and he
4
just
players here in
wanted
the
to
top
beat
8.
the
We've got,
quarters-finals
Matt
match.
Brown, Dylan Kakawa,
Uh,
William Thompson, Thomas Bott. Who's going to take it home? Who's going to get the edge?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I
Yeah,
suppose if you're playing against someone who's 10-0 and you know they're probably gonna run back their deck, beating the quarterfinal match is a pretty high priority. But it looks like here, so mulligan to 5, I think. So Matt's gone down to 5, and Dylan, they've played a Carnifage on turn 1. What do you think
Okay.
about the matchup? Do you think it's roughly even, or do you think it's fundamentally favored for one of the decks?
I think this matchup is going to be pretty favored for the red-black player. Like, as we see here, the red-black opponent is interacting extremely well
Right.
to the game plan of Omnath. There's a lot of dead cards in the matchup, as we just saw from that draw step.
Look, I'm going to go,
Yeah,
And-
definitely.
go overseas.
And the only
here.
removal spell in
I reckon that this
Matt's
Esper deck
hand
looks
is
like an
not
absolute
able to be
blast
cast
play.
at this moment.
Uh,
So
Yeah.
unless he can grow Spiral into a land for the swords, this Bob's going to trigger. We're going to start snowballing.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I think the matchup is fundamentally favored for the black-red deck. And I mean, even disregarding the fact that the Pyroblasts and so forth are probably dead, it's still a aggro deck that has some grindy elements. And like you said, there are a few removal spells, but we're going to get wastelanded, and then you're going to
Yeah.
struggle to both block creatures and stop the card advantage engine.
Yep, there's the main phase, Growth Spiral that I was referring to, but no white source.
Yeah. So do you think this game is actually just over, or do you think there's some way to make it out of this?
Oh yeah, I definitely think if you're able to draw a white source, going next turn Plow Jace is like a pretty decent line, and then you have the Snapcaster Mage to just do it again. It really all depends on the next draw step for Matt, how this game's gonna look.
Yep, that's quite
Well-
fair. I guess you can't Snapcaster anymore.
Yeah, that was a great one.
So yeah, so you wastelanded here. So if you draw a white source, Jace plus swords, maybe you stem the bleeding a little bit. You can't transform Jace anymore, but you could dig to another removal spell.
Yeah, having it be a looter too is just like pretty decent in this matchup, getting rid of all the dead ones.
So Force is not the card I suspect Matt wanted to draw. And there's also a bit of tension here where like you really want to bin Pyroblast to the Jace, but if you do, suddenly Dorothy Voidwalker can use it as a removal spell itself. So
Yeah,
there aren't a lot of good cards to actually bin with the Jace here.
yeah. One of the things that was a line last turn was just like leaving open Snapcaster Mage to block either Bob or Carnophage. Obviously Bob, but
Yeah.
it would help stem the bleeding a bit if he didn't have any instant speed removal spells. But looks like he might be forced to pitch. Nope. Yeah, it looks like he is valuing Snapcaster Mage as a blocker. He's
Yeah, I
going-
think that's probably like the most likely way out of this situation. Obviously, it's all pretty bad because your opponent has flipped price to progress, but you have to get creatures off the board somehow.
Right. Price is going to be annoying. It looks like I'm doing the math right. It looks like Matt is dead to this price. That's Carnophage is a 2/2. It's a bit hard for me to see on my screen, but
Yeah, it's the 7 power in play, and price of progress will be 2 damage.
yeah.
So Jolly Voidwalker, I believe, can cast. It's without paying its mana cost, so you can just cast Force of
Yep.
Will. So it can actually cast counter spells. It doesn't activate as a source or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So in that
this
case, yeah,
looks-
there's just no good pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if like there's a lightning bolt or something in Matt's future here, lightning strike. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but it shows, I think, the like key axis on which the black-red deck operates. So here we see Dylan's profile again. That you want to play a threat or 2 threats very quickly, and then do something to disrupt your opponent. In that case, it was a wasteland, but it can be firebolt on their mana elf or similar. So if you were boarding against this black-red deck, Sam, is there anything you particularly want to get into your deck or get out of your deck?
Typically, when I sideboard, I look at what I want to take out more than what I want to bring in. And in this matchup, there's obviously all the pyroblasts and rebs that are dead. A lot of the more expensive counter magic I don't particularly care about.
As in, you'd like to look to take Mana Leak, evasive action out of your deck?
Like evasive action is a bit annoying because you are going to be fetching out some basics in order to play around Wasteland and Price of Progress. But like some of the Force of Will isn't the greatest in this matchup. I feel like this is the matchup where you should be able to 1-for-1 your opponent pretty reasonably. Like you have some great cards in Scavenging Ooze, Lightning Helix, Coatl, where you don't really need the counter magic to stem the bleeding enough. Like your blue count isn't very high in this deck, so Force of Will doesn't have a lot of other blue cards to pair with it that you don't really want to be pitching.
Yeah, definitely. You play a lot of cards that are backbreaking as well, like Celestial Purge, as you said, life gain cards that come with removal attached.
Yeah.
I think you know that the black-red deck post board is going to be roughly the same thing. They're just going to have fine-tuned their list a little bit with a red blast or an eliminate. You fundamentally have the same problem to fix. But here we can see Matt's opening hand.
Yeah. He's really hoping for his opponent to play like a Bob or a Ragavan so he can shoot it with Ren, but it looks like that's not happening.
Yeah, so it looks like Matt chose not to get Dryad Arbor on turn 1 with the Green Sun Zenith. Do you think that Matt's looking to get like a Scavenging Ooze on turn 3?
That's what it's looking like. Ren on 2, Skoos on 3 is pretty nice curve.
Yep. So we saw Diagraph Ghoul go down there, which is notable because Ren and 6 can't kill it. So you normally might think Lightning Bolts could be safe, like you said, a Dark Confidant, but here we're keeping the board clear. We're accumulating some card advantage.
Yeah, that Mox Jet was a beating for sure.
So this is a Goblin Guide. So we'll get to see what's coming next, which is quite nice from our perspective. But this doesn't kill Ren and 6, and
Yeah, that's a nice prime time on top.
Yep. So we've got what? We're a little far away from it, but Green Sun Zenith is going to, I mean, maybe get a life gain creature here. Looks like that's what Matt's going for.
I think I'm kind of into getting a Tarmogoyf with this Green Suns, honestly. I
Yep.
think being able to block Tarmogoyf, we have the fetch land that we can just throw in the bin, make it a 3/4.
Yeah, that's very true. And it looks like that's what Matt's gone for. Do you think that there's anything significant about Dylan? They've missed their land drop. Does that change how you would play it all? Are you thinking now that their hand must be something particularly powerful and you just have to sandbag them until you can take over the game?
I'm not sure. Oh, all right.
Strip mine.
There's the strip mine. That's a pretty decent one. Taking out the green source is always good. Yeah, it looks like Matt didn't play out the fetch land last turn, or he upticked Ren and put it back into his hand. So Dylan was able to lightning strike it, which was pretty great.
Which is a pretty good swing for Dylan. But notably here, Mana Leak will counter any spell that's played next turn.
Right.
So
looks like Ren's most likely going down this turn.
Yeah, so Matt's decided whether or not to put Lutri into his hand. He's decided not to. So he's waiting to try and trade Mana Leak for something. And Dylan's fetching straight away, so they might be going for like Goblin Rebel Master or Sulfuric Vortex.
Yeah, it looks like Dylan's no longer on the back foot missing his lands, which is pretty sweet. All right, there's another land for Matt.
Yeah, so notably the life total does remain quite high for Matt. So that's sort of the silver lining here. You maybe missed your chance to put the game away, but
right, you made it to turn 5 and you're at 18 life. What's the worst?
Yeah, like unfortunately your opponent did draw their land and the red and 6 got eaten, but hey, you're not under significant life pressure. They don't have a wide board. You're going to counter the most important thing they play.
Yeah. I'm obviously a bit biased because my teammate's on Esper, and if we get paired against the Omnath deck, we're never winning that matchup. So kind of
Yeah.
rooting for Dylan, but it looks like this game's pretty even at this point.
Yeah, this is an interesting decision. So you can take Counterspell on top plus Supreme Verdict. And Supreme Verdict is potentially good, but the Black Red deck has recursive threats,
Yeah.
and it's a little hard to cast. It
Yeah.
looks like Matt's put it on top. He's thinking about it. Yeah.
It's like pretty close if you want Supreme Verdict. There's only one creature in play, and if you left Counterspell on top, you'd have Leak plus Counterspell for whatever they play until you land Primetime. But if you value your opponent double spelling next turn, then having Supreme Verdict is a good answer.
Yeah, there's some flexibility here where. So leaving 2 cards on top means you're definitely not drawing one. But there's some flexibility here where if they play 2 small creatures, you can hold your counter magic and Wrath, or if they play 1 big threat, you can trade the counter spell for it.
Yeah. Looks like Dylan's not doing anything with his mana that he fetched out last turn. What do you think this is? Like a Price of Progress?
Yeah, I don't know that it's specifically Price of Progress, but I suspect they're holding multiple burn spells and they don't want to get caught in a situation where, fetch lands on the stack and you can't pay for a counter spell or something like that.
Yeah, Green Suns was a great draw. This is probably getting an Uro. You're still able to hold open Mana Leak. Oh,
Yeah,
looks like this is a 2-drop.
we've already cast
Oh,
Green
that's
Suns
3.
once this game, so we get to break the Highlander rule. So Ice Fang Coatl. It's not too bad.
Sure, that's fine. Prismatic Ending is nice.
Yeah,
I
so I was
think
gonna say.
I think you
Sorry,
still
go on.
want to leave open Leak at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think having Mana Leak for something scary like Spawn of Mayhem, Lightning Skelemental is
Oh yeah.
really important. But notably, there's only 1 threat in play, so your opponent, they have to be sandbagging something. And if you can find a removal spell for their creature, suddenly you might just get to sit there until you can actually take over the game with Primetime, Field of the Dead, something unreasonable like that.
Right. Yeah, this eliminate. I don't think I want to fight over this. It's only 2 damage from the Goblin Guide, and we get to slam Primetime next turn. I just want to make sure that's good enough.
Yep. Okay, so it looks like
All right.
Matt's
Well,
fought and the burn spell's been used to kill the Coatl.
Waddle is dead.
So 4 mana. This seems like the sort of turn where if Dylan can... Okay, so it was the Skelemental. If Dylan can do something powerful this turn, Matt's tapped out, they can threaten to take over the game or push it beyond Primetime stabilizing.
Yeah, that's Skelemental definitely is a beating here.
Yeah, fortunately, there are some lands in hand that might go away.
Yeah, Primetime
Now,
looks pretty nice here.
So Skelemental gets sacrificed, and you can Primetime make a zombie, I think. But the question is, how much burn do you think your opponent's sitting within their hand?
Yeah, it also means you're just dead to Price of Progress if you get Field of the Dead here.
Yes, that is also a very relevant point. Do you think you would not get Field of the Dead? I suspect that
No,
building a
I think
board's pretty important.
you definitely just have to.
Yeah,
Sadly, there's no Radiant Fountain in this deck. That would be great, but
yeah,
it wouldn't like sort of help you survive a price. Oh,
yeah. Price of Progress is certainly the card that lets you stretch. It's reach that's just not available in modern formats anymore.
yeah. I'm looking over the deck list. I think Price of Progress is the best card in the matchup, and in both the games we saw it be lethal.
Excellent. So congratulations to Dylan. They've
Yeah.
beaten this Omnath mid-range multiple color pile deck. We don't know who they were going up against in the finals. Is that correct? I think the second match is now to be played.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's either going to be Bilsiv on Esper Control or trying to look up the name, but I remember the other opponent
Thomas
is going to be
Boss.
on Thomas on Mud.
Yeah. So you said you preferred with William.
Yep.
And you also
we
said
did.
that you very much wanted to face the black-red deck over the 4-color deck?
Correct. The black-red deck, although it didn't have a great time against the Omnath deck, because of the lack of removal spells and efficient interaction, for creatures, the Esper control side is going to be a bit better if that ends up if we end up getting paired against it. If
Okay.
Thomas wins, I'm not sure how the Mud deck is going to fare against the creature deck, but if Mud is able to get anything at all going, I suspect it should be able to beat the creature beatdown from Dylan's side.
Yeah, definitely. I think it goes much bigger, but it's certainly very vulnerable to Dylan just getting anything under the horrible large artifacts that Tom will be summoning.
Sure. One last thing before we go. How do you think the next match is going to go?
uh,
Thompson versus Bot.
oof, I'm not sure. I think that I suspect that some very angry artifacts might get there, but I was very interested to see the Esper control deck. I just think that these artifacts are a bit non-interactive, and the fair game might struggle. But I'll be watching with a lot of interest, and I think we'll have a couple of new commentators to take the audience through that.
Yeah, I'll be watching as well. Will and I did a bit of focus testing on this matchup, and it was extremely swingy, like you said. If the artifact deck has the good cards in their hand, if they have the Workshop or the Tolarian Academy, it's over for Esper. But
Yeah.
Esper also has some broken sideboard cards for that matchup.
Yeah,
Should be a
for
fun
sure.
one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it after we sign off here. So thanks very much for coming along. That was a great top 4 match to watch. And it'll be Tom and Will coming up next.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the booth. My name is Jim Dowling. Don't worry about what it says below me. It doesn't say Sandberg. Never said that. And I'm joined again by Isaac. How you going?
And my cat, Paxel.
Oh,
It's just hanging out.
the old cat intermission.
Yeah, cat intermission. Oh, hey, buddy.
That was a blisteringly fast top 4 match there. I mean, expected if Black Red was going to take it, it was going to be quick. But geez, that was like 15 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, that was real quick. Yeah, there was some real key parts of the matchup that just didn't come together. For Matt, like getting an Omnath into play and gaining some life there, or
Yeah.
we saw at the end there the Primeval Titan coming into play, getting Field of the Dead, putting like 10 power on the board, which is big game.
Yeah, Primeval Titan it's just Grave Titan actually. I mean,
yeah, didn't realize it was Grave Titan. Hey,
yeah.
Titan with upside.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's right.
And then just pop, yeah, that lightning scale mental, taking away a couple of cards, but more importantly doing 6 damage in one card.
Yeah.
And then Price of Progress. Look, I think Price of Progress is always just going to be a card that.
That's right. Well, we've got a little bit of time here before the next match. We can bring it forward a little bit, but Bill Civ is in, I believe it's 6:30 a.m. In Bill Civ's homeland right now, which is not really you're gonna struggle to bring those forwards. Although I've gotten word that Bill Civ is going to be ready in about 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up the player profile and then the deck list for our matchups here. So I'll give you Will Thompson to start with, Mr. Bill Civ himself, and get you to talk over that while I do some back-end stuff.
Cool. So, Bill Civ, Doomsday, Oracle Breach, and Esper Control. So, changing up decks throughout the MTGO League. For those that aren't aware of the format of the league, it was run over the space of 5 weeks, and you had 2 pairings for each of those weeks. So you put in one deck list. You can actually change a list in between weeks, so you can actually play a variety of different decks over the space of that 5 weeks. And then at the end of that 5 weeks, you've played 10 matches, and then we cut to the top 8. So throughout those 5 weeks, William Thompson, Bill, has played Doomsday combo, Oracle Bridge combo, / Esper Control. Now, this could be 3 different decks. It could be the one deck all rolled into one.
I believe it was 3 separate ones. The Doomsday deck was a very dedicated combo engine.
Yep, cool. And then today, we have this Esper control deck. So you see here that it doesn't have the combo. Deathrite Shaman, Dorothy Voidwalker, Jace Prince Prodigy, Snapcaster, Hull Breacher, Opposition Agent, and Vendilion Click. So some different utility creatures there, combined with Prismatic Ending is a card that we saw in both white decks. That I think it's a really interesting card. It can, for 1 mana, it can exile a Mana Dork or a Mox or a Skull Clamp. Then we get to 2 mana, exile a Ren and 6 or something like that.
So someone was arguing with me that it never trades up in mana. But the counterpoint to that is it also never trades down in mana.
Yeah, there is some argument to be said that it actually does kind of trade up against Thalia.
Sure.
In that, I guess it doesn't kind of trade up because it still costs you 2 mana.
Yeah.
But for a 2 mana thing, but normally it would be harder to do than that.
Yeah.
Interestingly, it cannot target things like Wormcoil Engine, which is potentially quite relevant in the difference between, say, a Path to Exile versus Prismatic Ending, which a bunch of people are cutting the path for the Prismatic Ending, but it doesn't exile Thought Not Seer or Wormcoil Engine.
I mean, who would you see playing a Wormcoil Engine in this top 8?
I don't know. Maybe somebody like somebody who's one deck that they played throughout the tournament was Mud. The opponent here, Thomas Bott.
Yeah, and Thomas Bott's been playing it in paper as well. I believe Thomas Bott made the top 4 of the Temple Arden Winner Was it Winner Volcanic? Is that what we ran in April?
Yeah,
I think that was it.
Winner Volcanic. There was 3. There was like Highlander, and Legacy over the space of like a long weekend, which was cool to see.
I believe Tom came 10th in one of them. I could be wrong about that one, but definitely the top 4 in the other one of those events. Playing Mud. So knows his way around a Mishra's Workshop. And you mentioned Prismatic Ending not being able to exile a Wormcoil Engine. Let's have a look at the laundry list that it can't exile. Ugin the Ineffable. These 4 drops in an Esper deck specifically, unless you got like a Deathrite Shaman going on. Your Battlesphere, of course. Although exiling a Battlesphere itself, you're in a bad spot. Forsaken Monument, Batterskull, Mystic Forge.
It can actually exile that Chalice of the Void, which is pretty cool.
Hey, that's cute.
You can pay X is 1 and just go white. It's X or less or something with Prismatic. So you can actually just pay any mana.
I've definitely done my fair share of messing around with Engineered Explosives, Chalice of the Void, Thorn of Amethyst, all of those sort of interactions in Vintage in the past. You see them a lot less these days with all of the restrictions on the spheres, but they're definitely a tried and true piece of the metagame. No? Yep.
Look, I think that a big thing that's we've seen that Urza's Saga. That card is going to do some work. Make a 3/3 and then they turn into 4/4s or 7/7s or 10/10s in this deck. And also the Tolarian Academy. So Tolarian Academy, Mishra's Workshop are going to be really important in this matchup.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. The fast mana out of this deck is very scary, and that's where the points have been spent, not just on the Academy and the Workshop, but on Soul Ring and Mana Crypt as well.
Yeah.
So
now, a card like Mishra's Workshop, really expensive in real life, but quite cheap on NTGO.
Very true, very true.
Yeah.
So we're waiting on Bill Civ to rub the sleep out of their eyes and give us some video. As soon as they do, we're going to give you the word, and there'll be a 10-minute delay before we get to commentate, and we're going to have some fresh voices. In the meantime, I think what we might do is look at the players who made the top 8 but didn't make it to the top 4. How do you feel about that?
I reckon that's a good idea. Whilst you're bringing that up, I wanted to mention that, Mishra's Workshop, really cheap online, but a card that's not cheap online is Ethereal Forager. I don't know if you know this card, Jimbo, but it's one of my favorites, the Whale, I often refer to it as. Blue, and 4 to cast, but it's got Delve as a 3/3 flyer. And when it attacks, you can return an instant or sorcery that you delved from it into your hand.
Yeah, very powerful. one of those cards where if it gets to attack, you're probably not winning that game, I should say.
Yeah, it creates a lot of card advantage as well as being a 3/3 flyer. Notably missing from William Thompson's deck. Now I'm not sure if exactly what the case was there. It can be a bit of a liability sometimes if you don't have enough instants or sorceries. Although Bill Civ certainly has enough instants or sorceries, but it's interesting because it's certainly maybe hasn't been played with enough. It's it's one of my favorite cards. I'm just saying that I'm disappointed to not see it because I think the whale is great, and attacking with a flying whale. Yeah, good
All right. Well, let's have a look at some player profiles here of our top 8 competitors that didn't quite draw the right cards in the round of 8. First up, we have Paul from Germany, represented by the card Nimble Mongoose.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So, what did they play throughout the tournament? Oh, we got Rug Tempo, so Ren, Oko, Strip Mine, Wasteland, and Forceville. MTG achievements, having found some remarkable friends through the game who are supportive, enthusiastic, and critical about my every endeavor.
And really, that's a sweet achievement.
I think it is honestly the best thing about Magic the Gathering.
The friends we made along the way, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm sitting here chatting to you, and we'll be joined by other friends later tonight. It's the gathering is really the best part for me. Anyway.
Oh, definitely. I got some friends that we met through Magic the Gathering who don't play Magic anymore, but we catch up and play board games, and I get sometimes I get legal advice from them, or financial advice, or different advice from all my Magic friends that work in different professions, which is always fun.
Well, let's have a look at what Paul is playing in the top 8. Was playing in the top 8, unfortunately losing their quarterfinal. They played Rugs.
Expressive iteration. Is that? Do you love to see that, Jimbo? I know that's your.
I love expressive iteration. It is very powerful.
Yeah. There was the
right.
Ragavan there, Rugsy, getting in there. Yeah. A main deck collector oof. Now that is certainly a concession to Thomas Bott being in the top 8. I'm quite sure.
If you have a look at the bracket, and the bracket was known as the players submitted their deck lists, Paul played against Tom Bott in the quarterfinals.
Okay. So I saw the person that played Mud throughout the entirety of the Swiss rounds, and I'm going to put a collector roof in there. I think that's a good use of that slot.
And that's pretty reasonable, especially considering, the one of the big bads of the format right now being Underworld Breach in all of its variants, and Collector Oof is live against that matchup as well.
And it turns off Wanzo Diamond, so.
Exactly right, yeah. Who else can we have a look at here? Let's have a look. CFT Sock from North America, represented by Lurus of the Dream Den. Bit of an enigma, not much known about them. I don't have any more than what's on this here card.
1 CFB Clash Championship, top finishers and a few SCG online events, which is pretty cool to see. Now I'm going to read out this wall of text for favorite thing about 7.9. I haven't read this, so let's see what it says.
I'll just let you know that this is after I trimmed it to make it fit.
Okay. So favorite thing about 7PH, it's not as focused. It's not as focused on the busted cards as Vintage, and you're still playing with the express goal of winning the game, unlike in Commander. But the singleton nature of the decks makes it so that games are constantly presenting you with new and unique game states to navigate, and I find that extremely enjoyable and fairly unique to the format. Also, totally distinct from that, deck building is incredibly fun and forces you to make a lot of different challenging choices. I was very pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed working with the 7-point limit and how you could build even relatively similar decks in so many different ways structurally. So
just going to cut in here. There is exactly 10 minutes until the match starts.
Okay, exactly 10 minutes. You can set your clock. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've got it set up on a 10-minute delay, and I can see opening hands. So.
Okay. If you could add a point to a card, what would it be? I don't really like to think that much about how formats should change. I mostly try to build good decks under the constraints that exist.
And they did. They came along, 204 players, made the top 8.
pretty good. And
Never
good
played the
attitude
format
had
before
towards
that?
a new format, like not anything should change. No, I'm gonna work within the constraints I have, maximize my equity in terms of winning the game, and yeah, successfully doing that into the top 8. Good to say.
Yeah, and let's have a look at what CFT Sock brought to the table. If I can find the right tab here. There we go. Kablamo. This is a Lurus Breach Thassa's Oracle deck.
Ooh wee.
And even that's not not enough to draw you away from playing Ragavan.
Ragavan getting in there. Because if you're playing red sources, then Ragavan creates treasure tokens, and that's pretty good.
Yeah. And you know, Dragon Rage Channeler as well. It's a nice little card quality engine.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Dragon's Rage Channeler.
I just want to point out this Praetor's Grasp in the main deck.
Ooh, main deck Praetor's Grasp.
Mm.
So for those that don't know Praetor's Grasp, it is like a 3-mana extract. So black, and 1. Search your opponent's library for any card and you exile it. And then you can play that card. You still have to pay its mana cost.
Yeah.
But you can use using mana of any color.
Yeah. It's like Demonic Tutor from your opponent's library.
Yeah. It can be really good against Thassa's Oracle deck. So in the mirror, because you just take their Thassa's Oracle.
Sure.
And suddenly they have to play like a fair control deck,
Yeah.
which means you can tap out and you can not be scared about the combo, which is...
All right, well, that's going to do us for right now. If the next match goes very quickly as well, I'll get you back in and we'll chat about the other 2 players that made the top 8 and not the final. But for now, I've got to kick you out. I've got to kick us to the BRB screen and I've got to get our commentators in for the second semi-final. Tom Bott against Bill Civ. Stick around and Isaac will be chatting to you later.
Yeah, looking forward to commentating on those finals.
Yeah, see you then.
See you soon, everyone.